State Warriors, just when you thought he was down, Steph pulls through and shows that he isn't. Will, what are your thoughts on this?
I think that this is quite the game and quite the nail biter with Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. But I think we should be taking a moment of silence for all of those LGBTQIA plus
Right.
people.
It's very important. We spoke before going on for this game this morning, and we thought it's really important that we honor them, especially now that they are under attack all across America. Will, I think it's even more important that we acknowledge specifically every single letter in that LGBTQIA spirit. Can you please go through each and every one of them so that ESPN can directly show our solidarity with them?
Right. L for lesbo.
Close.
G
Yes.
is for don't say gay. B for bear. Heard that one in West Hollywood before.
No.
LGBTQ. Questionable sexuality. I is for indigenous. T for transsexual. The plus is for the plus.
As well as this is going, I just want to put out again, ESPN supports LGBTQIA2S.
What is the plus?
The plus is for other identities. Will.
That's what it's for?
We should have prepped before we went live for this game.
Is that what it's actually for?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. We should.
I knew that.
ESPN loves you and acknowledges you and is going to fight
what does ESPN stand for?
Excited Sports Programming Network.
Perfect. Just like LGBTQ. Good job.
Thank you so much. I know a lot about sports, as you can tell.
Right, no, it's okay. Sports science.
Guys, welcome to Will and Amala Live. What a fantastic skit to open up the last show in our long series of doing this. How long has it been, Will? How long have we been doing this show?
Like 9 months. I had a baby.
9 months? Yeah. And then here it is, it's over 200 episodes of Will and Amala Live. The last one with you today on this most beautiful Monday. We do want to let you know, guys, but there are new shows coming out. I want to show you this page that we have that you can go to. It's prageru.com/will-and-amala, and you can go to it. It's in the description down below. If you want to sign up, put your email in, and you will be updated as soon as our new shows are out, which they will be coming out very soon. Right. One in the beginning of April, because I know you guys were asking, and it will be on this channel specifically. So you guys will be able to watch that at around the same time every single day. So your live chat will still exist. Your little community will still exist on this channel, so don't fret. And then we have other shows coming out as well after that, and you guys will get emails sent to you when they are out there for your watching.
Make sure you're following us on social media as well, because we post a lot of stuff on there. And even the people who don't watch the show every day, you should be following us on social media too for all of the videos that aren't Will and Amala Live.
Yep.
Everything else PragerU. There's a lot that we post and things that go on there that also don't even make it on any of the channels or on the website. So just make sure you're following us on social media at the Wilbit, at the Amala Panobi, and keeping up with everything we got going on there.
Amazing. Now let's get into these ESPN clips. They just had to acknowledge LGBTQIA2S plus people on ESPN during these games. Here's clip number 1.
Legislation happening in Florida and across other states as well that are targeting our LGBTQI plus communities. Many of our colleagues here at ESPN have planned and organized a walkout that will be happening at 3 p.m. Eastern today. And to be honest with you, we thought we were going to come here today and really celebrate a sport that has meant so much and done so much, including for so many in the LGBTQI plus communities. But we understand the gravity of this legislation and also how it is affecting so many families across this country. And because of that, our allyship is going to take a front seat. And with that, we're going to pause in solidarity.
Wow. I'm so glad they did that.
Legislation.
Otherwise, I wouldn't know.
Is that the one from the game?
Yep. Delaware versus Maryland, it looks like.
So they're at the...
This is the NCAA Women's Championship, by the way. So who was watching this in the first place? I don't know.
The whole thing is already a moment of silence because there's no one in the stands making any noise. So, They stopped the moment of silence, and it's still silent. Because no one's there watching.
Oh, gosh.
If a moment of silence falls in a forest.
No one's there to see it. Is it really?
If a woman makes a moment of silence at a WNBA game, and nobody's there to hear it. Did it really happen?
Oh my gosh, it's hilarious. Yeah, but it's just like you at ESPN, not only are you doing a moment of silence because you have to let everybody know what your political leanings are and how you feel about legislation that's happening in Florida, which we're not going to get into, but is a far reach from anything that is written in that bill. No, but you also have to do a walkout at ESPN for what? What exactly are you protesting or making a stance against? You work at a company that covers sports. Literally, it has nothing to do. You know when Ingram got in all that trouble, I believe it was Ingram, for saying, shut up and dribble. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel. Shut up and do your sports commentary. Yeah. Because it literally has nothing to do with what's happening in Florida right now.
This video has 570,000 views. That is more people have watched this video than anyone has ever watched women's basketball. That's crazy.
That's true.
If this was all stunt to get attention on women's basketball, they succeeded.
They've done a good job.
They're desperate over there, having moments of silence.
I'm still not going to watch the NCAA Women's Championship, but I did watch this 40-second clip.
Right. I mean, you guys should really watch the WNBA games. I mean, some of them. It's hard to watch. But yeah, I mean, they should. I don't know. I think that this is going to continue happening forever. People are always going to put political messages in because this has been happening forever. It's never been as abrasive as it is now.
Yeah.
So I think that, we just have to get to a point where we say, okay, when are we going to have people who we like their values putting values in? It's like if they put values in that I liked, I would be okay with it. But they're putting in terrible values, and I think it's wrong.
I just think it should be separate.
Gotta make an alternative.
I just don't want to hear it. I don't. This made me want to cancel my ESPN Plus that I just bought.
ESPN Plus.
I do have ESPN Plus specifically only for UFC.
Oh.
I paid, $70 to $90 a year for ESPN Plus.
Wait, I thought UFC was like a pay-per-view thing.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
Some fights are still pay-per-view.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I paid my good $70 to $90 for ESPN Plus. Yeah.
Okay.
So ridiculous.
That is ridiculous to watch women's basketball. I mean, it's crazy.
But it's not just the NCAA Women's Championship. Here's another clip of two hosts at ESPN talking about this same thing.
Ago, our LGBTQIA plus teammates at Disney asked for our solidarity and support, including our company's support, in opposition to the parental rights in education bill in the state of Florida and similar legislation across the United States.
And a threat to any human rights is a threat to all human rights. And at this time, Courtney and I, we're going to take a pause from our broadcast to show our love and support for our friends.
Ago, our
The virtue signal is real. It's alive. It's well.
Mm-hmm. And they cited on this one, they talk about as employees of Disney. This is a gesture that we've talked about internally. ESPN is owned by Disney. But we covered
BlackRock.
We covered on Friday, was it Friday or Thursday or Friday last week, that we would deep dive into Disney and like the woke stuff that's going into their new movies and all this stuff. But if you think that this ideology is not getting into like Disney Plus movies and it's in your sports, everything that they own, these big corporations are top down infusing these values into everything that they do and everything that they own. It's getting into the employee handbooks and trainings and all the way to where it's no coincidence that two separate broadcasts from ESPN did the exact same talking point, used the exact same LGBTQIA plus letters and everything, and they did the same gesture, moment of silence. They're getting memos being told to do this. It's orchestrated and it's from the top down. And if you think that like these corporations are not doing everything that they can to inculcate these values wherever they can, you're not thinking.
Yeah, not to mention it's a complete mischaracterization of what's happening in the state of Florida, which we're not going to go in depth about it because it's outside of our scope. But it is a complete lie. It is a lie that is creating all of this hysteria and making people want to virtue signal and talk about it when I can guarantee you none of these women, all three of these women, have not sat down and read anything about what's actually happening in Florida. No,
well, I don't also think there's any gay people who are like, thank God they took a moment of silence for me.
Right.
Like there's no one out there is like, wow, I couldn't have done this without them. If it wasn't for these two brave NCAA women's basketball commentators, we'd be back in the Stone Ages with gay rights. Yeah, it's virtue signaling to the highest degree. It's all about looking a certain way versus actually doing something.
Yep, and it has to infiltrate everything. You can't just watch a sports program anymore. They have to let you know how they feel about you and your politics and the state of the world as it pertains to these social issues. You cannot simply just be entertained anymore. You can't. It just doesn't exist in any. It feels like in any facet of our society, pure and sheer utter entertainment does not exist anymore.
Right. That's why we got to push conservative values in sports. Push them all the way through.
Or just push for sports. Just want sports. It's just like, why do you have to constantly push a message and an agenda through everything? It's getting to the point where you don't even want to put on your TV anymore.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, why would you want to watch anything when all you get is this? Like, I go through Netflix and like try to watch a new show and it's just immediately talking about like abortion and race and gender and.
I know. I don't watch any of it. I don't watch anything new like that because it's all ruined. Everything's ruined.
Right.
There's no point. You should go back in history and read and listen to things instead of going forward, because going forward is just cancer. All of it, conquer. It's all terrible.
Meanwhile, you try to tell the truth on social media and you get banned and locked down and censored. Here's a story about Babylon Bee. You guys all know Babylon Bee as that outlet that puts out these sort of, what would you call them, satirical headlines.
Yeah, kind of like The Onion, but if it was only conservative. Really. Right,
exactly. And a lot of times the headlines that they put out, although satirical at the time, end up being true. Yeah. So they put out a post basically calling Rachel Levine, who is the United States Assistant Secretary of Health, a transgender female, and they said, this is the man of the year. This is Babylon Bee's man of the year. And they posted this on Twitter. Is that not true? Is Rachel Levine not a biological man? I'll let you come to that conclusion. But yes, Rachel Levine is a biological man. Twitter, of course, did not like this, marked the tweet as hateful conduct, and basically said, you violated our rules and our terms of service. You are now locked. Your account is still there. People can look at it, but you are unable to tweet and you're unable to use it. And then they retorted back and said, you know what? We'd be so willing to give you your account back. Just delete the tweet. Delete where you said that Rachel Levine is the man of the year. And Seth Dillon retorted back and said, no. He said specifically, we're not deleting anything. Truth is not hate speech. If the cost of telling the truth is the loss of our Twitter, then so be it. Yeah,
it's very brave, and it's the right thing to do. You can't delete your tweet now after that happens. You know, you have to stick with it and stick by what you said. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they win. You know? Yep. But you have to continue to stand by it, which I think is great that he's doing. A lot of people won't do that. A lot of people will just delete the tweet and say, okay, it's worth it. Just have the Twitter back and delete the tweet and get back on. But no, it's a very courageous thing to do.
It is, and it's going to show people, you know, you can stand for this. I know it's scary to hear, like, I'm going to be censored or my account's going to be taken down. Specifically an account like this, they had 1.3 million followers. I'm sure they get a lot of their revenue by posting things on Twitter and people seeing that, and that's how they garner a lot of attention on their headlines. To stand tall in what you said and say, no, this is the truth, I'm not going to bow down to the will of what you say, is a really important thing to do, because that's how these sort of authoritarian outlets get reinforced, by trying this over and over and taking these big accounts and saying, we're going to take you down, and then having them bend to your will. And if he had taken that tweet down, sure, maybe it wouldn't be much skin off his back. All he had to do is, you know, click a button and delete a tweet. But it is a major thing to take something that you put out there that is true and is just the straight, unabridged truth, and have to delete that. It is a big thing to have to do.
And what a double standard, though. I mean, the things that are on here that they're saying it's harassment, violence against any sort of racial, ethnic, or sexual orientation, any of those kinds of things. I mean, just go into the replies of any conservative and see the horrible things that people say about us all day long. I mean, harassment, actual harassment of people, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it never gets shut down.
No.
None of it gets shut down. I mean, we can just look at the stuff that's happening right now with the laptop. You guys know the laptop from hell. I mean, that should be enough to show you that there is a clear bias here. Anyone who doesn't think there's a bias, they're either wildly ignorant or they are lying to you. There's only two options, because there is a bias against conservatives on these big platforms. And that new Twitter CEO is he's really doing wonders already, really getting after it, what he said he was going to do.
And not to mention, I mean, right now, as we speak, the CCP is freely spreading propaganda through all their state-owned channels on Twitter. Ayatollah Khamenei from Iran is able to be on Twitter and have a presence there, and that's where they throw gay people off of buildings. So apparently they're not concerned about that.
Right.
What else? Vladimir Putin has a Twitter account, and they're able to spread war propaganda. China's able to cover up their genocide and spread propaganda about that. So all those things are okay according to Twitter standards, but not the Babylon Bee saying a man is a man. You can spread any lies you want, just don't say this simple true thing. And
Yes.
I liked Seth Dillon's response. He echoed J.K. Rowling when she said it isn't hate to speak the truth, and he said the truth is not hate speech, and that's all it is. And we're living in a time where you're having to choose between saying the truth and being platformed. And I admire the Babylon Bee for going down with the truth, and that's ultimately the right thing to go down with.
Yeah.
And luckily they have other accounts, and luckily Seth Dillon has a separate account to be able to talk about these things. And that's something that we bring up when we talk about J.K. Rowling. Is like, if she was just some normal person with a few, 100,000 followers, and she wasn't who she was, that account could just be gone and nobody would think anything of it. The same thing with the Babylon Bee. Nobody would think anything of it. Luckily, they developed an audience that is dedicated to them and their own website and all these things. If you didn't have that and you were getting your revenue and your income through things like Twitter and these major platforms, what are you going to do? You'd just be gone, and that would be the end of it. And that's how simple it is, and it's really heartbreaking to see how much power these platforms have.
Yeah, and it also goes to show that, there's that lady, Sarah Jeong, you remember? She was a New York Times reporter, and she put out all those racist tweets against white people. I mean, horrible things. And what happened? The New York Times stood by her and said, this is fine, we accept her apology, and we're going to move forward. She didn't get taken off Twitter. And then she's totally fine. But imagine if she said bad things about black people or trans people or anything like that and made any of those types of jokes. Obviously, it's going to be it's the end of the world for her, right? So there's a double standard. It is anti-white. All of it's anti-white, anti-man, all these kind of things.
Yeah, they have the narratives that they're comfortable with. Yeah. And that's the line that you can toe on every single one of these platforms. You can say the most absurdist BS in the entire world and just throw it out there. I can say anything about white, cisgendered, heterosexual men that I want to say on any of these platforms. And you see it all the time, the most disgusting stuff. The Taliban has accounts on Twitter, but saying that a biological man is a biological man gets your account locked.
Yep.
It's insane.
It is insane.
And this is the world that we live in.
Right.
Welcome to the clown world, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. No, that's why when people say all these horrible things about white people, you need to shame them. You need to shame them for the things that they say and make sure they know that what they're saying is wrong. We can't just call out the double standard and say, oh, there's a double standard. No, if there's people saying horrible things about white people or men or any of these things that you're allowed to talk about, we should make it so that you're not allowed to do it. Shame these people for the things that they say. Shame them so that they feel bad and don't want to show their faces because they got people shaming them all over the internet because they said stupid things. You can say whatever you want. You have the First Amendment right to be able to say whatever you want, but that doesn't mean there aren't social repercussions for what you say.
Right, and that's what we saw with the New York Times in that article that they put out saying, the First Amendment protects you from people being able to shame you or ostracize you for the things they say.
Insane.
No. It just goes to show just complete misinformation, as the left likes to call it, on the side of what free speech actually means in this country.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Now, let's move on here to this letter that was put out by the ACLU for membership renewal. They go through this process of, the people who pay money to the ACLU, that membership expires, and they send out a letter asking for more. Here's the letter that they sent out. And really keep in mind what the ACLU is like today and the campaigns that they work on, although they'll let you know in this letter. So they say, "Dear friend, your membership expires this month, and I am writing to ask you for your generous renewal commitment today. We can't do this without you. Our ACLU advocates fight so hard to defend the Constitution for a very powerful reason, because if we don't, people will suffer serious consequences. And if we want to have the strength and resources to keep fighting alongside people whose rights are on the line, we can't afford to lose the support of stalwart members like you. Today, as you consider renewing your ACLU membership for the year ahead, I'm asking you to think about the people who are counting on us, the people who are counting on you and the ACLU to defend their access to abortion, which is under the most severe threat in decades. The citizens whose right to vote are being thrown into jeopardy by a wave of racist voter suppression laws and gerrymandering. The people in BIPOC communities who need us to fight right alongside them to challenge deep-seated inequalities woven into the fabric of our society. The transgender people who are being denied the chance to participate in athletics and refused access to gender-affirming health care. And they go on to talk about immigrant families and asylum seekers who are being denied rights in this country as well.
Yeah, it talks here, it says, talks about racist voter suppression. I mean, the ACLU used to literally represent racists. That's what they did, but they represented them on free speech grounds.
Yep.
They didn't represent them on saying, we love racism. They represented them on free speech grounds. In the 1970s, Nazis went through Jewish neighborhoods, and the Jewish people sued the county for allowing this to be able to happen, for allowing these Nazis to get a permit, literal Nazis. And the ACLU defended the Nazis' right to be able to march and go peacefully in this Jewish neighborhood and speak what they wanted to say. That's what the ACLU used to stand for. It used to stand for the Constitution, stand for freedom. I mean, how does any of this, and none of this is about the Constitution. Not one of those issues that they're bringing up there is about the Constitution. Not one. The people in BIPOC communities, it never mentions anyone's race in the Constitution.
No,
never mentions transgender. It never mentions immigrant. It mentions, citizen. If you are a citizen, you have certain rights. It talks about voting. It also doesn't talk really about voting in the Constitution either. And then abortion. Yeah, it doesn't talk about that either. None of this is about the Constitution. If you want to defend the Constitution, then defend the Constitution. And if you want to defend all these things, you can defend them. But don't say that you're defending the Constitution when you're talking about leftist nonsense.
Right. It points back to that New York Times thing, thinking you're defending free speech, but have a complete and utter, not even misinterpretation, just a fabrication of what it means to even do those things. And obviously they have no connection to what it means to support and defend the U.S. Constitution, because none of this is associated. So what does that mean for you? Are you having this reframing of words in your mind of what this country was founded on and our actual values? Because none of this is included in it. And we've covered stories before of all these law professors and people coming out onto TV and saying, we need to scrap the U.S. Constitution. We need to shift it to represent people like me because it doesn't currently represent us. The Constitution represents everybody. It doesn't represent this sort of delusion that you're trying to put forth and this sort of social justice lens at which you view the world through. That's not what the Constitution is. No,
they say it's the living, breathing document. It's not. It's there. It's set. It's not for you to be able to interpret in that way. There's a way to interpret it and there's a way not to interpret it. Pretty simple.
And even the woman who posted this tweet, by the way, who got this letter of support to renew her membership, she read this, and she was originally a supporter of the ACLU, and she said, just to be clear, I have no problem with what the ACLU is supporting. So she's actually someone who's sympathetic to these themes, but she says that's beside the point. These are all worthy goals, but this is not the role of civil rights attorneys. The ACLU has failed at their only job, which is to defend our constitutional rights. So, kudos to her. I don't agree with this woman's politics, but at least she can recognize that this is not the role of the ACLU, and they're completely abandoning their original purpose, which was to defend constitutional rights. This has nothing to do with the Constitution. It's just naked left-wing activism.
The ACLU tweets out that men can have periods.
Yep.
They say men can give birth, men can have periods on International Men's Day or something. They say men can have periods. That's a great way to celebrate men, ACLU, by saying that they can bleed out of their vagina, which they can't, because men don't have vaginas.
Gosh.
But that's what they represent these days. You should, if any of you guys give money to the ACLU, you should all pull out immediately and give them nothing. The same with your alma mater. You should give them nothing. And you should give money to PragerU, because PragerU is changing people's minds, actually. These people are changing people's minds, but turning them into mush.
Yeah, just look at their website, Unite and Resist. They're showing people how to making signs for different protests, talking about diversity, just support trans youth now. It's just come on. You've completely deviated from what your organization was founded on. And of course not. No, you're not getting our money. Absolutely not. I will never. And I do like that you said that even leftists, people who support this sort of politics, can realize that this is not at all what the ACLU was intended for. And when that shift sort of happened, I don't know exactly, but that's something that I think should be looked into, and we will possibly discuss at a later date how the ACLU became this woke entity that it is now, because it was not this. It really was not.
No. But that's happened to a lot of places.
Yep.
A lot of things. Look at an organization like the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center. What a terrible organization. Something that was supposed to call out hate and call out real injustice, and all it is a thing that attacks conservatives and tries to destroy people's reputation. It's a terrible organization.
Yeah.
All these types of things that are intended for some sort of good end up just crushing people, destroying people, and pushing a radical message.
Yeah, when I was working for the left, we partnered, our organization partnered with the Southern Poverty Law Center. So that just goes to show you like what their intentions were.
Terrible.
In retrospect, it was terrible.
Right. Yeah.
But at the moment, you're like, this is the greatest thing ever. But yeah, it's Southern Poverty Law Center, ACLU, all these organizations that have just like completely bent over backwards for the woke left and change everything that they were founded on and what they were intended to do are just weak social justice warriors. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Yep.
Now, let's move on here. One bit of good news. There are 10 JetBlue, American Airlines, and Southwest pilots that are suing the CDC over the federal mask mandate, saying it encourages, one, unruly behavior, and they're citing flawed science. So these 10 pilots have banded together and put together a lawsuit that's going against the Center for Disease Control for expanding this mask mandate through TSA and on airplanes. This is I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the third extension of this mask mandate for planes and air transport. So they're coming together, they're suing them and saying, not only is this causing an exorbitant amount of unruly passengers on our flights. They've given out over $600,000 in fines to people who've become unruly on these planes due to the mask mandate. But it's also based on flawed science. We've covered on this show before how the HEPA filters in airplanes make the air some of the cleanest air you could possibly be in for travel. The best way you could possibly travel if you are scared of COVID, which if you are still scared of COVID at this point.
Well, also, I mean, geez, is this supposed to be a non-opinionated article in this thing? This Business Insider. Opinionated. I understand, but it's like, is it supposed to be actual news? Because it says, but their suit also baselessly claims. I mean, what? Are you trying to be objective, or are you just seriously just?
Of course not.
I mean, really? Like now, that's no act of trying to be objective whatsoever. That's just coming right out and saying it's baseless. You know, nothing. No level of integrity, journalists.
No, they don't try to hide it anymore. They don't try to hide it anymore. It's almost hard to just like find the truth in anything.
Your fact checkers are just reinforcing the approved narrative instead of actually checking the facts.
Well, your fact checkers live in a shed in India. I mean, that's literally what your fact checkers are, and they're Googling and finding out the thing. That's
right.
You know, that's like what it is.
Let me check my rigged Google search results to verify whether this information is correct.
No, did you see that they fact checkers for a lot of this COVID stuff were guys in India that they had outsourced. They're living in like shacks, and they were these people who were fact checkers.
I saw another story where they looked into like groups. They researched some fact checkers, and they were like literal left-wing activists that had used to work for like a one of those super PACs or whatever, and now they're just doing fact checking for Associated Press. And
I know.
It's pure propaganda.
It is pure propaganda. I'm just reading this. It says the pilots claim in their suit that they're saying that they're suffering from mask fatigue. And then the journalist writes, which is not a thing, and suggests that face masks are totally ineffective. I
had mask fatigue the first day of COVID.
Yeah.
It's totally a real thing.
Of course it's a real thing. No
totally a real thing.
Well, actually, some people want to wear it. People who are ugly. But other than that, it's
just ask speech pathologists who have a 346% surge in toddlers that are having speech impediments because of and slowing in their development because of having to wear masks all the time. Ask them about whether they have mask fatigue.
Right. No, of course it's a real thing. It's incredibly a real thing. But you won't have mask fatigue if you just say, I'm not going to comply anymore and just stop doing it.
Right.
So then you won't have mask fatigue. So you just have to stop doing it.
Yeah, and it looks like I would hope that there would be more than 10 pilots willing to put a lawsuit together for this.
Well, definitely. I don't know who these 10 pilots are, but I've worked with many of these groups. If you guys don't already subscribe, you guys should subscribe to the U.S. Freedom Flyers newsletter that they put out, I think, about once a week, which I follow them, and they do great work. Southwest Freedom Flyers do great work. A lot of different groups with all the different types of airlines are doing fantastic work fighting against this. I mean, I know the Southwest guys had a lawsuit about them being laid off. So they're doing a lot of stuff, and I hope that these 10 guys succeed, even though, you got guys like Thomas Massey in Congress who are already putting forward legislation about the mask mandate on planes and public transportation, and hopefully that works. But, we'll see what these people get out of this now.
When do you think it'll actually be dropped on planes?
Well, it's getting dropped on some planes. I mean, I'm going to Europe, and apparently KLM dropped the mask mandates. Or drops the mask mandates on the day that I'm leaving.
Like within Europe, or on international flights, like even back to the U.S.?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not wearing the mask. I'm going to tell him I read online that it's over, so I'm not wearing the mask. It was
on the internet, so it must be true.
Yeah, it was on the internet. Yeah.
Well,
I said what we asked this question before, like a couple months ago. I said April.
So next month. I mean, it's crazy to me. Like, we're in Los Angeles. They suspended the mask mandates for bars here, which are supposedly one of the most dangerous places to do it. Bars, restaurants, etc. And on planes where it's safer by all available data, according to science. And yet they're just extending it further and further. So, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
Even in LA, it's getting really lax around here. I've going to places I'm obviously not wearing a mask, but I see other people who are not doing it either at all. So I'm feeling like it's lifting.
The whole thing's like a psyop for compliance. It's like once it's no longer the like socially necessary thing to make you a good person to have the mask on, then it just, as soon as like half the people stop doing it, everyone stops doing it. It's like there's a lesson there in like the psychology that like you need.
Yeah, the lesson is like when you look at COVID and when you look at Ukraine and you look at Black Lives Matter and you look at all these things and you look at not the elites, but you look at normal people, you look at the plebs, and it's not a right versus left thing. It's compliant people versus non-compliant people. People who are obedient to authority versus people who aren't obedient to authority. And that's really where the divide is. And that's how they know that they can get us, because there are too many weak people who are obedient to authority. And there's more of them than there are of us.
Man, and those weak people, they don't want to do it either. It's like that video of Ron DeSantis walking up to those kids and saying, like, you don't have to wear the mask. It's like if you take a strong stance with people who are weak in that moment, they will really just go, oh, okay, I just did it because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Right. And they will, go back to normal. I know.
It's no excuse.
But it's like, if you just lead by example in your life, people will follow and people will see that and go, oh, I could do that. I can actually lead my life that way. And they will do so.
Yeah, definitely. But more people just have to do it. Yeah. You have to be the leader.
Yep. I completely agree. Now, guys, since this is our final show, we figured we'd go back and look at what this set used to look like and what this show used to be like. Back in the day, this was on April 30th. So I used to stream on here alone, basically, is how this started. Was every now and then when a big story broke, I would come up and do a stream and just talk about it. And this is the original set that we had for this show. On air with Amala.
You're killing it. People are commenting that our shelf is falling down, which we know.
Yes.
Sorry, guys, but we're making tiny improvements week after week on these lives, and we'll get the set in working order. So the mug may go next, but it's fine. But no, how about just how wild it is that the lady? So yeah, was like,
this was the original set. So dark, so ugly. I don't know what we were thinking.
Are you afraid of the dark?
Yeah. Look, I'm about to do like an R.L. Stein's Goosebumps hour for you guys about this. As you can see, the coffee mug did fall off of that shelf, and later just the whole shelf just topples off the wall.
If you were watching that in the chat, let us know. If you're an OG, you'll remember that set and that episode. That was pretty wild.
Marina DeConte says the shelf. I remember. Tragic. Yeah, this was a high budget production back in the day.
Well, we weren't supposed to drill in the wall. I think they were told us not to drill in the wall. So did we try to tape it or what was it?
Tape.
Yeah, don't try to tape a floating shelf to a wall, people. That's not a good idea. Very unprofessional. Who lets this stuff happen?
It's so tragic. Yeah, Taylor. Taylor was the production manager.
Like, we just brought in this viral TikTok girl, and we're like, what should we do with her? Like, I don't know. Let her go on the internet and talk live on air. And
this report,
let's tape a shelf to a wall. What's the worst that could happen?
It has 122,000 views.
I know.
Good. Shocking. Which is just shocking for something of such low quality.
Well, the quality doesn't matter. It's the content.
Yeah,
that's what means the most to people.
You guys are living proof watching that quality doesn't care.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just look at me.
Just look at
me. Obviously,
Will's got a quality fit on today, though.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's like I'm going to look nice for the last show.
There you go.
Do a fit check.
Is it really for the last show, or do you have an event after this?
No. Well, I have an eye doctor appointment.
No.
Which, he could be a cute eye doctor. Who knows?
He?
You never know.
You never know. This next one is when Will and I first did our first stream together after I got banned on TikTok for the first time. So let's look at that. Great thumbnail.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't know for live. There's Will.
Ah.
Also, the facial hair is Hi, everybody.
Horrible.
So it's Amala Epinobi and
the only mustache man, Will Witt.
Who switched
The world's
cameras
best looking
there?
facial hair.
Oh, he's convinced of that. But we're here with PragerU, and today we're going to talk about some breaking news. I came into work on this Monday morning and found out that I was banned from
Also,
TikTok, which I
so
guess I get an honorary badge for that because it seems to be an ongoing trend with a lot of the conservative creators on the platform. But I'm just going to go into a bit of the story. That's Will coughing in the background because he's a little under the weather.
Sorry, I'm over the weather, to be honest. I'm doing much better. Still just as funny. I'm still so funny.
You haven't changed at all,
No.
except
Yeah,
the facial
it's-
hair.
Yeah,
That
except
was a
the
great
facial hair,
look.
which
my
is a
little
good
Hulk
change.
Hogan, my
Ugh, where
horse,
do I pause on
my
that?
what's it called? Not the horseshoe. What's it called?
Handlebar.
No,
That's not
it
a
is
handlebar.
horseshoe.
That's
It
a
is
horseshoe.
Right,
Yeah.
horseshoe. Oh man, it was hard to keep Taylor off me.
I was going to say hard to
my
keep the food off of it.
No, that was a great look. It was a great look.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Hard to keep your butter chicken out of there.
Seriously, no.
How'd that turn out?
Flavor
You're
saver?
cooking with
My
Will
butter
this
chicken.
weekend.
Oh, it was fantastic. I
Yeah.
used too much ginger. There's too much ginger, which I don't like ginger
Rookie
really that
mistake.
much. I know, but it's something I don't like. So next time I'll make it without as much ginger.
Wow.
Maybe I'll make tikka masala next time.
Tikka masala is fantastic.
It is. I like butter chicken better.
That's what I
but
order every
tikka
single
masala
time.
is good.
Yeah, it's probably a little too much flavor for you to handle on the tikka masala.
Oh, yeah. My
Gotta
throat's
stick with the
gonna be
butter.
burning.
It's real mild.
spice god over here.
Yeah. No, I added I added an eighth of a teaspoon more of red chili powder.
Oh
so
no!
I'm a pretty crazy guy. Gonna be
Yikes.
honest.
Hope you had some Tums after that.
Oh, I did.
Speaking of heat, here's the last clip I want to show. This is our first time doing hot takes with the hot sauces on Will and
God.
Amala Live.
Whose
Here.
idea was this? Was that even? I literally don't know anything about the Beatles. I'm not a fan.
Here comes the sun.
Okay, another hot take. We live in an extroverted society. Just dying. We should change it to an introverted society.
I agree with this one. I agree.
This is a
Crying
warrior effort
sore.
by us
Look
to
at
try
Scott.
to keep this
This is
segment
really
going.
difficult.
Holy. That was.
Okay, here's my take. You can't live in an extroverted-led society because, in an introverted-led society because introverts can't lead.
But my thing is, why do you need leaders for society anyway? You can have people be individuals in their own right.
Doing a good job
You
debating
can't be
through the
individuals in
pain.
your own right. You have to lead somebody.
Oh my God.
For those of you who don't know, this is the sauce called The Bomb Beyond Insanity. And I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
It makes your
horrible.
insides die.
I wouldn't wish it on Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, or Bill Gates.
No.
The stomach pain it gives you is worse than the spice, I think.
Well, afterwards,
I think the
yeah.
spice
No, the
is
next
worse.
morning was horrible.
Spice is
That's
bad,
why
but
we
it
had to
goes
stop
away.
doing
Gross.
this. We had to stop doing this segment because it hurt me so badly.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
because
give
Will
up.
refused.
I refused. I'd wake up and you guys know the rest. I mean, it was not fun.
Lynn Babe says, Will cried after he said men don't cry earlier in that same show.
Yeah.
That is true.
It's
We did a debate
exactly
on Hot
true.
Takes about whether or not men should be able to cry in public. And Will said absolutely not. Men should not be able to cry in public. And I just want to show you. What is Will doing?
Listen,
we gonna,
there's a
make it
difference
coherent?
between crying emotionally versus crying from a physical reaction of a spice entering your body and destroying you.
Are you crying in public?
When Will stubs his toe, he cries in public.
Well, if it really hurts.
But only if it really hurts.
Yeah. Only 20
Oh,
minutes.
man.
So, yeah.
That was a good one.
That was-
Classic.
That was
Classic, and it never happened again because...
No, we did it again.
We did it a couple more times.
Yeah, a couple more times.
Yeah, just
And then I
not
was
to
like, I
the
can't do
same
it anymore.
extent. Not
no,
to
that
the same
time
extent.
was the worst. That time was so
Will
bad.
was like, I'll put some Dijon mustard on my nugget this time. And that's as spicy as I can go.
yeah. No, I
Spice
put,
God over here.
Yeah.
Spicy mayo? Oh, God.
I know.
Couldn't possibly.
I know.
Taco Bell mild sauce? Get that
It's
out
too
of here.
much, man. It's too much. It's too much.
Hilarious.
It
I
hurts.
love it.
Now, let's get into Dear Will and Amala, our final segment for the last episode of Will and Amala Live. A lot of you were grieving in my Instagram comments over this. And speaking of grieving, here's the first question. Any advice for grieving the loss of Will and Amala Live? Best of luck on future projects. This is from Marcelino Makes Life Better. Any advice, Will? How do you
Leave the country
country?
and start a
move
new
away.
life.
Yeah.
Get a new ID.
Go off the grid.
Yeah.
Get
Start
a Dutch girlfriend.
Yeah. Start logging in Copenhagen and
Wow.
get a new profession.
This seems very plausible for
Change
all
everything
of the people
for
who watch.
yourself. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Just get over it. What are you supposed to do?
Well, like we said, it's not going to be a full grieve here because we have more content coming. Again, there's going to be a live show on this channel. Will's coming out with new shows as well. I have a new show coming out for you. So there's going to be a lot of future projects that you guys get to watch and see that will feel, if not similar to Will and Amala Live, at least something where you still see us and see our personalities and everything, and we'll be talking to you as well. So as far as grieving, you're not really losing much.
No.
As far as
I
content.
don't know. I, for one, am going to completely change my entire personality after the show is over.
You just come back.
It's been nice
totally
knowing you guys as this current personality.
I come back as Will. Will comes back as like this soft and like, no, guys, we should totally try to understand.
Guys, these people, the pedophiles, we got to find common ground with the pedophiles.
That is not how I sound, first of all. I'm going to be like,
sorry. We have to find common ground. Is that better? Better?
The worst. The worst. I'm going to be like, I hate everybody. They're all evil.
That sounds like just like me. Just like me.
Yeah.
This is that chemistry we all love.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I love some people.
I would hope so.
There are some.
I would hope.
My mom.
Yeah.
My
There's a
dog.
select
Your
few
mom.
of people.
Rocky.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's not a people, but I love him anyway. Yeah, I do.
So yeah, there won't be much grieving happening. I promise. It's
Yeah,
going to be a
just stay
few
in
weeks.
touch. Follow everyone on social media.
Yes.
Follow Will. Follow
Follow Preview
Amala. Follow
content. We got a
Preview.
lot of stuff coming, so don't worry.
Exactly.
You're not even going to have time to miss this show because
Right.
there's going to be so much other cool stuff.
Just imagine, what were you doing 9 months ago? Just go back to that.
Right.
Plus more.
And you were fine.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Well, maybe.
I don't think we filled some void in your life. And if we
Potentially.
did, we'll be back in 3 weeks.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Promise. This is goodbye, but not forever, ladies and gentlemen.
Auf
See you
Wiedersehen.
soon.
Auf Wiedersehen.
It's see you soon. Exactly, Taylor. Very profound.
Wundersache.
Next one is from Citrus Firefly. What are some practical ways to stop worrying about growing up and becoming independent? I mean,
Excuse me.
wow.
Just burp it away.
Very
Yeah.
profound.
Yeah. That's
Almost more
called being
profound than just
independent.
kiss her.
Just kiss her. Yeah.
Stop
how to
worrying
be independent?
Stop worrying about growing up and becoming independent.
Isn't growing up kind of, well, it's becoming independent, but then also dependent on someone who you marry or become in love with. And
Yeah.
everything, Right?
I mean, yeah,
So
that's part of it.
you're worried about a
Can be
job
part
and
of it.
becoming independent?
Yeah, I just think like, I'm assuming this girl is probably like 16, 17 and or
Yeah.
maybe in her early 20s and just like growing up, moving out of the house, like getting your own career, being independent and growing up in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
How do you stop worrying about it?
There is nothing you can do. Especially, there's nothing you can do. You will always worry about getting old.
What?
It's
That's
true.
not true at all.
Of course it's true.
No,
but
it
you have
is
to learn
not.
how to deal with the just what happens to you.
I don't worry about
Well,
growing up.
I know,
or
but like
getting
with
old.
life change, I sympathize with that because like I just got married last year, and I was like worried about that in some sense. Like some part of my mind is like, oh my gosh, what's it going to be like? It's so different. How am I ready? All these questions. But at the end of the day, you just you go through enough of those changes in life where you're leaving the house, or you're going to college, or you're trying to find a job, or start that next phase, or moving to a new place, a new state, and like I don't know, you get tougher, stronger through each one, and you just start to learn that life goes on, and you just have to be ready for that next thing. And it's just part of growing up, is becoming stronger and really not wanting to be shielded from reality and shielded from the world, but be more excited about the way that you're going to assert yourself in life and what you have to contribute to the world than you are afraid of what it might do to you. There's always going to be things that you can't control, that are scary, that you can't see on the other side, but you just have to know who you are and have your own sense of foundation and belief in yourself. And for me, having my faith in God, really, ultimately I don't believe it all depends on me, and all comes down to how well I'm able to manipulate reality and circumstances to fit what I want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's more, hey, God's with me, I'm just going to take the plunge, I'm going to do my best and believe in what brought me this far, and believe in the vision that I have, that I believe is in line with what God wants for me, and I'm just going to go after it and do my best and believe that He's got my back, and that gives me courage to take the plunge. So I don't know, that's my answer.
That's right. It's good.
For me, I'm like, well, a lot of worrying, or at least what it was for me when I was like younger was attached to time and thinking, oh, what's going to happen in the future? What's going to happen in a week from now? What's going to happen in a month? Or things that happened in the past and things like that. And you are only in the moment that you're in. I talk about this so much on the show. I say it so often. You are only present in where you are right now, and worrying comes from not being present in where you are now and taking yourself out of the situation that you're in to think about future plans and future endeavors and all of these things, and then feeling like you have too little time or too much time, or you don't know what to do with that time, and you're constantly removing yourself from the present moment that you are living in. And I do my best. Obviously, you fall victim to that sort of thinking and doing that, but I do my best to say the only time I'm in right now is right here. And I will do what's best for me in these moments and in the life that I'm leading as I am leading it. And the future will come to fruition in whatever way it comes to fruition. I don't think it's something that needs to be worried about in the sense, and when you spend too much time worrying about the future, you lose everything that you're doing in the present. You lose every single moment that you have. Every single moment that you spend worrying about how things are going to be or how you're going to grow up or how you're going to become independent is stealing away from the moment that you're currently in. And I do my best to not do those things. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. It takes time. Takes time. Sometimes you just have anxiety and you want to worry about everything and anything, and you think that every single thing that you do is going to cause a cataclysmic event in your life, and then it doesn't. And then you grow and you learn from that, and you realize, oh wait, I can just be present right now. Yeah. So that's my advice on that one. Robin Christine 7 says, help, my favorite podcast is ending today. What else do I listen to?
Wow, I didn't know Steve Bannon's War Room was ending today. I didn't know Joe Rogan's show was ending.
Are those your recommendations?
Oh, no, there aren't. I recommend books about history, audiobooks about history. I just started this new book by Victor Davis Hanson, Defending the Citizen, or The Dying Citizen. Mm-hmm. Very good. I recommend everyone to read it. And audiobooks, the stuff that you get from audiobooks that's different than podcasts is that a lot of the stuff on the podcast just so everything's happening now, but you can look back on so many books and get so much just rich information. Like I also started reading on the weekends. That's when I read my stories. I'm reading 1001 Nights, Arabian Nights, and it's fantastic. It's amazing. It's incredible. And that's what I like to do. Mm. So I don't really listen to podcasts. I read news, but I don't listen to podcasts and other people's opinions really.
I do somewhat. I listen to a lot of debates on things that I just find important or things that I just think about, and I'll look up on YouTube and watch like a 2-hour debate. And Taylor does this as well. We'll just like put it on 2-speed and watch that. Russell Brand, I always talk about him. He's been somebody that I've been watching and listening to a lot lately, and he's been getting a lot of heat. Telegraph.uk just came out after him, calling him a conspiracy theorist and an alt-right speaker or whatever. So go and give him your support. I'm trying to think of what else. I listen to a podcast on Spotify called American History Storytellers. And if you're ever interested in American history and you just want to look it up in a way that's actually like very entertaining, they have music in the background and sound effects and characters while all giving you different periods of American history that you can sort of scroll through and pick which ones you want to listen to. And very, very interesting and so well produced. So those are my recommendations. Taylor.
Yeah, it's funny. Like we do a daily show about the news, but I don't really go out of my way to listen to daily news stuff. I mean, I use Twitter to keep up with the news mainly, but I agree with Will that like your time's typically better spent digging deep into things, because what's the point of hearing the latest thing going on if you don't really understand it in the context of history and all the great ideas and thinking and philosophy that goes into what made the world into today. And you're not going to be able to recognize the missteps of the present if you don't see it in the context of the past and just the bigger picture, the big ideas that made us where we are. So I've listened to that history podcast, but also podcasts can be useful for that too. Like I think I look at podcasts a lot of times as like a cheat code, like Joe Rogan's podcast or Tim Ferriss or some of the other ones that have like deep dive conversations with experts on their areas of expertise. It's like you condense into 4 hours what took them a lifetime to understand and research to. And then oftentimes it's like these great researchers who have written great books or whatever, but then you get their thoughts and all their perspective on the current issues of the day. So that's really helpful. Jordan Peterson's podcast, if you haven't been through his lecture series and stuff, I mean, I've listened to all those so many times. It's funny, like he came out with his book 12 Rules for Life, and I started reading it, but I kind of like trailed off because it was so familiar to me. I basically spoke that language already because I had listened to hundreds and hundreds of hours of his podcast and of his lectures and stuff. And he does good interviews and stuff as well. So I do recommend just diving deep into topics and issues. And there's plenty of great resources out there. New Discourses is another one I've been listening to lately. It's James Lindsay's podcast about critical race theory. It's pretty intense, and I have to listen to it back a few times and take notes because it's so dense. But stuff that makes you think, the stuff that gives you perspective. Oh, Revolutions is another podcast I've been listening to lately about the American Revolution. Just a good history there. So yeah, just it's your time's better spent, to Will's point, like, building up your library of understanding about things and like deepening, digging deeper so that you have a stronger foundation and deeper roots into knowledge and how to understand the world than it is just doing another thing that's like reacting to the
wisdom
issues of the
versus
day.
temporary intelligence.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or just being informed. Like being informed is useless if you don't have any like
context.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So
Man, I've been doing trying to find out what works, and Taylor knows this because we've been working on this new show stuff and trying to find out what works in the YouTube algorithm. So watching girls who are relatively my age making content, long form content, and seeing what works, and oh my goodness, it just melts your brain.
Oh yeah.
It melts your brain what people are getting famous talking on YouTube about.
I know.
It's unbelievable.
So there's so much shallow content out there. And look, I mean, I get it. Well, I'll watch a comedy show or listen to a sports podcast to unwind here, now and then. But I really make an effort to be adding value to yourself. That's how I like to phrase it. Add value to yourself in the content that you consume, because there's so much out there that just does not challenge you, does not make you think, does not teach you anything, does not make you a better person.
Yeah.
And it's just like a waste of time. And, avoid things like that.
Yeah. Try to limit that as much as possible. I guess sometimes you need a little oasis in the middle of the desert when you're learning things and constantly inundating yourself. And I do that all the time. And it's something that I personally have to work on, of just not getting sucked into this rabbit hole of just mindless content. But yeah, that's what these platforms are made for. They're made to just grab you and have you there for hours.
Right.
Yeah. So constantly think about whether or not what you're doing is bringing value. Next, Dear Will and Amala, how to answer when someone says you're confusing sex and gender in a debate. Anna Bananas Pants is the name of this person. Well, Anna Banana.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's arguing something that is just not real. When you start arguing about this, then you're arguing on totally groundless claims. Because if someone says the sex is different than gender, then that just means, okay, gender is something that anyone can just make up. And if you want to agree with them on that and say, sure, anyone can make up whatever gender they want, that doesn't mean they are what they say they are. So you can even agree with some of these people and say, sure, gender, you want to believe that it's made up and you can be whatever you want, sure, you can believe it, but that doesn't make it real. That doesn't mean that it's real. You are a man or you are a woman, and you can make up whatever you want and you can say that there's a difference, but the rest is just make-believe versus what is real.
Right, and just getting down and getting into the nitty-gritty of that discussion and saying, okay, let's assume you're somebody who's born as a female and you identify as the male gender. Do your body parts change? No. Do your chromosomes change? No. Does your DNA change in any way, shape, or form? No. So what exactly is the difference between sex and gender? And they'll probably tell you, well, it's a feeling. It's something that I identify as. And they go, okay, well, if that's your definition of what it means to have a gender, then sure, in that case, sex and gender are different and you are correct. But if your definition is my definition and it goes down to the biology, the chromosomes, the DNA, the male and female features and anatomy in a body, then I'm not confused.
Right. They can say whatever they want. You can say anything, but it's just not true.
Yep. One more here before we close out. Okay, Dear Will and Amala, I started an engineering/maths degree at uni, but I'm having second thoughts. Any advice? Alicia Reagan.
I think you need to read that in a British accent because they're saying maths in uni.
I started an engineering maths degree at uni, but I'm having second thoughts. Any advice?
What, bruv? I'm going to give you some advice, innit? Drop out. That's my advice. Drop out, take a gap year, and start working and figure out what you actually want to do. And then if you feel like you need to go back to college, go back to college. But yes, I say drop out immediately.
Immediately. Okay. Yeah, I mean,
before it's too late. You're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars.
yeah, I don't
Get
know
out
if
of
that's
there.
the case for this country, but yeah, I mean, if you're having second thoughts about what you want to pursue, don't start pursuing something that you're not solid about. I'll, from my personal experience, I graduated high school and said, absolutely not. I do not want to go to college. And I, was met with opposition from my family. And I said, I'm not going to go to college. And I didn't go to college. And then I worked in politics. Obviously, you guys know that. Then I worked in medicine and I found passion in medicine. And I said, okay, now that I found something that I'm passionate about, something that I want to pursue, which was midwifery, I will then sign myself up for school. And that was a few years after graduating high school. And guess what? It was totally fine and the world didn't end. Like people tell you that it is if you don't go to college. Take time to figure out what it is that you want to do. And then I started making videos and doing this and I thought, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Left college. That's it. And now, am I in any debt? No. Do I owe anybody anything? No. Did it ruin my life? No.
Yeah, drop out. Good plan.
I mean, if you're unequivocally certain that you want to be an engineer, then there may be room
it.
for just suck it up, finish your degree,
Yeah.
and stay focused because this is your
Yes.
goal, this is your gift, and this is what you want to do. But if you're not certain about that, or having serious doubts, or just don't feel like this is your thing, then I agree with Will and Amala that you could take some time and take a step back and try to figure out if this is the path for you. But that's about it.
It's all about what you want and what you are pursuing and what your end goal is. And if the end goal is math and engineering, by all means pursue the degree. But if it's not, or you don't know, take some time to sit in I don't know. A lot of people do not want to sit in I don't know. And so much so that they will sign themselves up for something that they have no interest in, and they'll say things that they have no interest in and are not even factual. That's how scared people are of saying I don't know in their lives. So it's totally fine to not know things. Sit in that feeling, think about it, get to know yourself before you sign yourself up for something that has nothing to do with who you are or what you want as an individual. There we go.
Yep.
And that's our final question. Any ending thoughts, guys? Wowza. Will's nodding.
Yeah.
Will's giving the old head nod.
A big thank you to everyone in the audience who has watched this show for months, been
Yes.
supporters, been fans of everything we've done, of the diverse opinions on here, of everything we've covered, the camaraderie, the helpfulness, the donations. Everything we've done is because of you. And everything we will continue to do that you guys won't be sad about is because of you. So I hope that moving forward, you guys will continue to watch all of the content that Amala and I put out here at PragerU and everything else we do. And we love you and appreciate all of the support you have given us. And who knows, maybe we'll come back for season 2 someday.
Yeah, you never know. Just bang out another 200 episodes.
Right. That's
Maybe a shorter
200
season.
episodes a season.
Easy.
Yeah, really, thank you guys so much for watching. There's been so many interesting moments in this show. And again, like we went back and watched what our first ever stream looked like compared to now. So look at the differences that we've made, and we've been able to do all that because of you. And, the show has been a platform to get on and talk about things that are happening daily. And a lot of people don't have that outlet to do so. And we're going to continue to create an outlet where you guys can do that because we know it's important. And a lot of people feel sort of ostracized and in their own little bubble. And we want to create an oasis for you to come and share your views, even when you're met with opposition or people disagree with you. This is a place for free thought. So we're going to continue to create content for you and have new shows for you, and the same old platform where you can come and express beliefs, whether they are popular or unpopular. And you guys can duke it out in the comments as you have been doing for ages and ages now, and we will invite that freely for you guys. Thank you so much for watching and supporting this show.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
We'll see you.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.